Every yard, every hit, every second. It's earned out here. This game demands more than just skill. It demands fuel. The right fuel. Cause out here it's not just about how hard you work. It's about how long you keep going. When the game gets real, drink bottle still.
Welcome in. We've got a wicked week of OUA football, including a couple homecomings, Connor. So let's dive right into it. We've got the Queens Gales hosting the York Lions. That's the big matchup this weekend. Queens, the run game is the big story, right? Cesare, 8 carries, and he did 200 plus yards of damage. What's he going to look like with more rest now that he didn't get his usual carries and touches? I think that the Queens is going to come out and run the ball very well. But at the same time, York's defense just gave up pert near 500 yards against the Carlton Ravens. What does this game look like to you from the York defense?
I think for York in this one, you really obviously, like you're saying, we know Cesare is going to run the ball, but you still need to be aware of the fact that Queens can step up and spread the ball around. Alex Reekin is a very good quarterback. He is a very accurate quarterback. He knows how to dot the ball around the park and give his receivers opportunities to go make plays. So yes, Jared Cesare is the story and has been a large story for Queens. Really, Wade, it feels like since he entered the OUA, but they can throw the ball as well, and that can't get lost in what was a fantastic day for Cesare last week. For York, though, Wade, in this one, like they control their own destiny if we start to talk about the future a little bit. And I really want to see them come out swinging, because right now, if the OUA ends today, they are in or close to in a playoff spot. So for me with York, like we can talk about the specifics, all this and that, but I just want to see them come out pedal to the metal and play some darn football, because you are sniffing at a playoff spot here right now if you're the York Lions.
Yeah, and clearly it's going to come down to head-to-heads and matchups. And they beat McMaster, they lost to Carlton. Guelph is the one that to me is sitting there in the back of that pack where, we know the talent that they have. Can they start to reel off wins here against Carlton, against Queens, against York to close out the year and get back to 500, or 3-5 and have the tiebreakers they need in the last couple weeks to kind of put themselves in that place of, postseason uh, football. And with York, we talked about earlier in the year, right? Like, geez, you win that Toronto game, you win Carlton, do you get to 3-1 and put yourself in a really pretty place where you can afford to have a slip up here or there down the road? Because we know, like, at the end of the day, football is not a perfect game. Even professional teams have off weeks, right? But how does this York Lions team look week in, week out, as now they are fighting every single week for a playoff spot?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Queen's going to have to be aware of quarterback Keaton Hall. He can throw the ball. We know this. Going to be an
If
exciting matchup. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. If what?
if Hall does not go, Matt Lynn, I think, is perfectly capable of playing the
Yes.
same style of football that York wants to play. Remember, he got hurt last week for our
Yeah.
viewers, last week against Carlton. So we'll see if Hall is back. If not, Lynn, we've seen a ton of last year. They can both sling the rock. They can both play football.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that matchup. I'm really looking forward to that matchup. Where do you want to go, though? Do you want to go to Laurier? Laurier taking on Toronto in Waterloo this weekend?
Yeah, and this feels like Laurier has not played at home in forever, right? They were supposed to have the home game against Waterloo. They had to move it with the stadium. I believe the stadium is done now. So this might be like the grand unveiling of the new stadium at Laurier, if I'm not mistaken. Connor, a lot of energy is going to be coming out of that Golden Hawks sidelines, as if they didn't already have that. Uh, Obviously, the big win last week gets the defense fired up in the end with the goal line stand, but expect this offense to kind of get right. Twice now that we've seen, they get these big leads at half and just kind of putter out as they're trying to kill the clock and work and be methodical. It doesn't feel like we've really seen them take that kill shot in the third quarter against these teams like Guelph early on, Ottawa last week. And we both know that when you end up playing the Western Mustangs, You cannot let them hang around in games or just kind of salt away the quarters. You have to be aggressive still throughout. And I'm really looking for that with Laurier this week. If they get out to a big lead, if they get out to a two-score lead, do they keep the foot on the pedal, or do they go into this mode that they've gone into a couple times now where it's let's kill the clock, let's try to eat it, let's be safe, and the teams end up coming back into the game.
Yeah, no, you're right. We have seen that a couple of times now with the Golden Hawks, but they are 5-0. They are at the top of the conference for a reason, and they are a very, very talented football team here. With Toronto, though, Wade, I'm looking to see if they can kind of get back to where they were. A little bit of get right in this one. 2 weeks ago, Queens kind of gave us the blueprint on how to handle the Varsity Blues, and if you go back and you remember that game, I mean, Barnett and company, not their usual selves. So I'm looking to see against another very good defense like these Laurier Golden Hawks. They're one of the best defenses in the province here. What type of day is Laurier going to have? Are they going to be able to take away Barnett, Oseen, Joseph, all the playmakers there? And can Jack Nyros get going on the ground again? These are some things that I'm looking for, but we know Toronto is going to come out and fire the ball. I think you have to when you have guys like Tayshaun Jackson and Ethan Jordan and all those list of names that we could go through over and over again for the whatever time on this podcast about the Laurier Golden Hawks. But I think in terms of talented players, Toronto has some of the offensive firepower to be able to run with Laurier a little bit in this one. But defensively, how are you then going to turn around and stop these Golden Hawks?
Absolutely, and that's the question, right? Everyone's trying to solve this riddle of how do you stop it, and maybe it just takes having Jackson Brashear make a couple plays. Who knows? But let's move on now. Obviously, the GG's on a bye week, but we do have some other big time matchups. Western homecoming against McMaster. Those two schools just don't like each other in general. So to add homecoming into it, add Western coming off a bye week, McMaster coming off a really big win for their season. I think that Connor, we're going to get a very finely tuned Western Mustangs, I want to say. And, we saw early in the year kind of like some sloppiness that you never really see from Western. They cleaned it up right away and have just been playing very solid football. I'm expecting this thing to be running on all cylinders this weekend.
I'm expecting this thing to be running. All right. I'm expecting this thing to be running through Dolby and Kelly. Oh, man, if we aren't going to see a lot of those two.
And Rancor, we got to add him in, Connor. I know the quarterback run game is something that people don't want to talk about, but he's playing H-back for Christ's sake. No, you're right. This is going to be the DK special. DK Bonanza is back in action. Off a bye week, they're going to be rested. It's homecoming. They're going to be making big plays. The sneaky one that I'm watching for, Connor, Evan Hillock's going to have like two of these 50-yard touchdowns where it's just everyone's hell bent on stopping the run. He gets the ball, little fake action, and just lobs one. And it's going to be Seth Robertson, Braden Mazzari, Dasani McIntosh. One of these guys is going to be the beneficiary of him just launching one down the field because we know he has a big arm. He's always had that. But the second that they see, creeping in, stop the run, focus on the run, that one shot is just going to be the one that gets the crowd ignited over the top, the backbreaker, the whole 9 yards. Excited to see this Western team. As for Mac, I don't think there's a time where you've been able to play Western one-sided and have a lot of success. And I just think that's the reality of the OUA. They're so strong defensively. You have to maintain some kind of a balance. And, I think back to Christ 3 years ago when we had the Yates Cup in London. It was the snowy day, and Queens kept trying to run the ball. And then the next year when Laurier lost, they just kept trying to run the ball. And like a casual fan might just be like, well, why aren't they just throwing the ball? They're down, they're losing to Western, just start throwing the ball. But the key is against this Mustangs defense, you can't get one side because the second you are, the pass rushers pin their ears back, the secondary gets a little bit more antsy and starts jumping routes. You have to play honest to keep this secondary and linebackers and D line honest in their scheme and system. McMaster hasn't really had that run game. How do you find that in a week like this, on a week where you come off a win without really having a run game, to then try to develop one here against Western?
Yeah, no, dude, I 100% am in agreement with you on this one. When you come in and you try to attack, one dimensional, especially against a team like Western, right? Like we've seen this time and time again. It's a story that usually plays out the same way and usually doesn't play out favorably for the team trying to attack one dimensionally. But Wade, let's move on. We have a couple more games to get to here. Let's go to the Carlton Ravens and the Guelph Griffins. Guelph going to the nation's capital, looking to bounce back after a loss. Carlton looking to keep this success sustained after a damn showing from Tristan Lefebvre, where he put up almost 500 yards in the air. And we were talking about important playoff games coming down the line. Well, how about this one at the as we get to the tail end, or the playoff push end of this season here? Two teams looking to scrap and claw their way back into the playoffs. Carlton with a win in this one goes up to 3-2 on the season, so this could be huge for them. Same with Guelph, get that second win, maybe start trying to sneak in at the bottom end of the playoff ladder, see what happens. But this could be a good game as things start to jostle for positioning here.
You never want to say like must win game until, it's about time to say, okay, they're must wins now. You have to win to make the playoffs. You have to win to advance in the playoffs. But Connor, this feels like a must win for Guelph, certainly, but for Carlton as well. I mean, you have Panda game coming up. It's creeping over your shoulder. It's what, a week away at this point, 2 weeks away. Um, Guelph needs to start to get this thing rolling. And I can't think of a better way than having that long bus trip. And I know we always joke about how much it sucks to go to Windsor or to Ottawa, these long road trips. But sometimes, Connor, having that team time where there's, shut off school for 24 hours, focus on just the team. We're not in lectures, we're not in anything. You're on the bus, you're in Ottawa, go see Parliament Hill, the whole 9 yards. Do something as a group to just kind of forget about school for a second. I know we're student athletes and we probably shouldn't say forget about school, but for just a momentary lapse, have no school, be all team focused, and get this thing going. This is the opportunity, right? You're getting a defense that, yeah, Carlton's offense looked great last week, Connor. The defense still gave up a ton of yardage to the starter in Keegan Hall and the backup in Matt Lynn. And that game was really won with some special teams and, let's face it, the arm of Tristan Lefebvre and Tristan Reddy going crazy on offense. So Guelph, a big time moment for them. The offense will have to stay balanced. I expect for them to try to run the ball a ton against Carlton, but this is a must-win game for Guelph and Carlton as well.
Big, big, big games coming down the stretch here, Wade. We have currently three 2-win teams sitting here in the mix if we're looking at playoff spots here. So getting to that 2 mark, getting to that 3 mark for some of these teams could be massive as we start to come down the stretch. One more game in the OUA, though. The Windsor Lancers hosting the Waterloo Warriors. Windsor coming off that big 34-14 win over Toronto. Waterloo still fighting, still looking for their second.
Yeah, they are. And, Windsor, Connor, this plays into their strengths, right? Waterloo wants to run the ball, really get after it in the ground game. That's what Windsor's defense has done really well, is load up, play man coverage, and just be sticky downfield. It's what they're going to do. And, getting a home game against Waterloo, a team that's, been battling some of the injury bug, Marcus Ola missing, right? There's some different spots on this Waterloo team that are super young all of a sudden, and a Windsor team that seems to be just, a lot of even veteran guys that are making their impact felt. So Windsor run the ball, stuff the run, play some man coverage. I think they're going to be able to do that very successfully in this game and be able to play that Lancer brand of football.
Yeah, I think so too. And when you look at what their defense did last week against Toronto, again, we talked about what Queens did. Let's look at what Windsor did. I mean, they really bottled up. Scott was under 100 for the day in that one. Jack Nyros really couldn't get it going, 28 on the ground. And then the big pair of receivers weren't even the two leading receivers in this game. It was Tom Hardy going for 71. Granted, it was, one catch for 71 yards, but still, they each had a couple attempts here and weren't busting the 50 mark. So Windsor really did a good job of reining them in, bottling them up, kind of making them play left-handed there in Toronto almost a little bit. So, I expect Windsor to come aggressive, to come heavy up front, to make whichever of the young quarterbacks for Waterloo uncomfortable this weekend and really force the ball into some bad situations. That's how Windsor kind of lives and breathes with their defense, right? Like, force some bad plays and let your athletic DBs go take the ball away.
Absolutely. Well, Connor, we got a big time slate of games. We got them all spread out again as we get some 1 o'clocks, 3, 4, 7s. So we'll be able to watch all of these games as they come in throughout the day. Everyone else is able to do the same thing, and the biggest reason is OUA.tv. Make sure if you haven't, go subscribe, go watch the games. You can watch them live and on demand. It's a great system, great service. So make sure to check out if you are in the area. Go support, go buy some tickets, go watch these games locally. I know I was talking to a couple people last night in Kingston as we were watching some high school football. A couple parents of former players that were going up to Western's homecoming, so that's going to be a big one. I know I'm thinking about going to York Queens. I just got some other things to do on Saturday, but go and check out these games. Go and check out these teams. Support local. Support your youth sports schools, specifically the OUA ones. The other thing, drink your BioSteel. Stay hydrated. Get it going. It's the #1 hydration partner for OUA athletics. Make sure you can buy it online in stores. However you get it, make sure you're drinking BioSteel. Stay hydrated. And Connor, that's it. That's all. We'll see you guys for the recap after the week's done.